She backed me into a corner to destroy me, to take everything I had ever created. To fight back, I had to make the one call I swore I'd never make. She thought she hired a lawyer. I, on the other hand, unleashed the shark. And the game was now being played by my rules. My hands still smell of cedar and linseed oil. It's a scent that has always grounded me, a perfume of purpose. For the past 15 years, I've been a wood restorer. My name is Ethan. I don't make a fortune, but I breathe life back into things that others have discarded. I find beauty in the broken, and I make it whole again. I thought that's what I was doing with my life, with my home, with my marriage. I was wrong. My wife, Ariana, and I have been married for 12 years. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood called Serene Harbor. When we first bought our house, it was a wreck, a forgotten, unloved shell. But I saw the good bones beneath the rot. Over the years, I poured every spare moment and every ounce of my soul into it. I rebuilt the wraparound porch by hand, plank by plank. I salvaged century-old oak from a demolished library to create the kitchen cabinets. Every floorboard, every window frame, every built-in bookshelf has a story, and I was the one who wrote it for them. This house is more than just a structure. It's a testament to my life's work. It's my art. Yesterday, Ariana came into my workshop. The air was thick with the dust of reclaimed maple. I was turning into a new mantelpiece. She didn't look at the wood. She didn't look at me, not really. She just stood there, her arms crossed, and announced that she wanted a divorce. The words didn't shock me as much as the coldness with which they were delivered. Our marriage had been drifting for a while. A quiet, slow erosion I was too busy or perhaps too cowardly to address. But what came next was not the sad, mutual end of a chapter. It was a declaration of war. She had a list, a set of demands. She was confident, you see. Confident that my modest income from my hobby, as she's always called it, wouldn't be enough to afford a decent lawyer. She wanted the house. Our house. The one my hands had bled and sweat over. She wanted all of our savings, the nest egg I had painstakingly built from every small commission. She wanted lifelong alimony, a permanent pension for her 12 years of putting up with me. But the final demand was the one that truly broke me. It was the kill shot, delivered with a chilling precision. She wanted the workshop, my workshop, and everything in it. Every hand plane, some of them passed down from my grandfather. Every chisel, sharpened to a razor's edge. My lathe, my saws, my collection of rare, aging wood I'd spent a lifetime sourcing. It wasn't about the monetary value. It was about severing me from my very identity. Taking my tools would be like cutting off my hands. It was a move designed not just to leave me with nothing, but to make sure I could never build anything again.
Let's be realistic, Ethan.
She said, her voice devoid of any emotion I recognized.
This pottering around with old wood, it's over. You need to face the real world. You won't be able to afford to keep any of this anyway. I'm doing you a favor, really. This way, you get a clean break.
A clean break. She wanted to break me, clean and simple. She wasn't just aiming for my assets, she was aiming for my spirit. To leave me a hollowed-out man, just like the house we moved into all those years ago. I'm sitting here tonight in that very workshop, the scent of cedar all around me, and for the first time in my life, it doesn't feel like home. It feels like a tomb. I feel cornered, desperate, and utterly, completely alone. There's only one person I can think of who might be able to fight this, a name I haven't spoken in years. A person I swore I would never, ever ask for help. My brother. So here I am, turning to strangers on the internet before I can even think of turning to my own blood. What do I do? How do I even start to fight someone who knows exactly where to strike to make it hurt the most? If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments what you think my first move should be. I could really use some advice right now. Thank you for the comments and the advice on my original post. Reading through them, a common theme emerged. I needed a shark, not just a lawyer. It's funny because our family already has one. Or more accurately, a pariah who happens to be one. My brother, Damien. Damien and I haven't spoken in 5 years. The silence between us is a monument to a family argument so deep and so bitter it cleaved our world in two. It involved our family's old, crumbling estate, Maple Creek, and a disagreement over our father's final wishes. I saw a legacy to be preserved. He saw a dead asset to be liquidated. Harsh words were exchanged, accusations of sentimentality on my end, of soulless greed on his. We walked away from that conversation and never looked back. He went on to become a legend in the county courthouse. Damien isn't just a lawyer, he's an apex predator in a tailored suit. He specializes in messy divorces, and his reputation is terrifying. They call him the Shark because he smells blood in the water from miles away and never, ever loses. He's brilliant, ruthless, and the last person on earth I ever wanted to be indebted to. But as I sat in my workshop, staring at the list of Ariana's demands, I realized she had left me with no other move. She had backed me into a corner where my only way out was through the one door I had sealed shut myself. Swallowing every ounce of my pride, my fingers trembling, I dialed his number. He answered on the second ring.
Ethan, it's been a while.
His voice was exactly as I remembered it. Calm, controlled, and utterly unreadable. There was no warmth, no surprise, just a flat statement of fact. I stumbled through the reason for my call, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. I explained the divorce, the house, the savings, and finally, the workshop. I braced myself for a lecture, for an "I told you so," for the bitter taste of him being right. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could picture him in his sterile, high-rise office, looking down on the city like a king surveying his domain. Then he spoke, and the tone had shifted. The neutrality was gone, replaced by something cold and sharp.
She wants the workshop? The tools your grandfather passed down to you? Tell me everything, little brother. Don't leave out a single detail.
We met an hour later at his office. I told him everything. Every cruel word from Ariana, every impossible demand, every fear I had. He listened without interruption, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that was unnerving. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair. He didn't offer sympathy. He offered something far more valuable. He offered a strategy, a cold, calculated, and utterly merciless path forward. He would represent me, and he would do it for free. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with a terrible, rising hope. I hadn't just hired a lawyer. I had unleashed a force of nature. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that Ariana's carefully planned demolition of my life was about to hit a foundation of solid steel. But even I couldn't have imagined the shock on Ariana's face when she saw who walked into that courtroom. It feels like I've made a deal with the devil. What do you think will happen in court? Let me know your predictions in the comments below. The day of the first preliminary hearing arrived. I'd spent the week in a haze of anxiety, while Damien was a whirlwind of silent, focused activity. He asked for every financial statement, every email, every text message I could find. He was building an arsenal while I was just trying to breathe. I walked into the courtroom feeling like a lamb to the slaughter. And there she was, Ariana sitting beside her lawyer, a man named Will who had the kind of polished, overconfident look I instantly distrusted. She glanced at me, and a small, smug smile touched her lips. It was a look of pity and victory. She saw me standing there alone, the poor, broken craftsman, and she thought she had already won. For a second, seeing that look, I almost believed her. Her lawyer stood up and began to address the judge.
Your Honor, my client's demands are simple and justified given my client's emotional distress and Mr. Thorne's limited...
The judge, a stern-looking man in his late 60s named Eric, held up a hand, cutting him off. He looked over his glasses at me.
And who will be representing you, Mr. Thorne?
My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the moment. As if on cue, the heavy courtroom doors swung open. In walked Damien. He wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't have to be. His presence alone sucked the air out of the room. He moved with a quiet confidence that was more intimidating than any shout. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and his face was a mask of cold professionalism. A murmur went through the few other lawyers and clerks in the gallery. They all knew who he was. The shark was in their waters. I saw Ariana's head snap towards the door. Her eyes widened. The smug smile didn't just fade, it collapsed. The color drained from her face, leaving a sickly pale mask of confusion and shock. She looked from Damien to me and back again, her mind clearly struggling to process what was happening. Her lawyer, Will, froze mid-sentence, his mouth slightly agape. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Damien placed his briefcase on the table beside me with a soft, definitive click.
Damien Thorne, Your Honor. I'll be representing my brother, Ethan Thorne. Pro bono, of course.
The judge's eyebrows shot up over the rim of his glasses. He looked from Damien, a man whose fearsome reputation had clearly reached him, to me, the humble woodworker, and then to a visibly terrified Ariana. I heard her whisper my name, a choked, disbelieving sound.
Damien, what is he doing here?
The smugness was gone. The confidence had evaporated. All that was left was a raw, naked panic. In that moment, watching the terror dawn in her eyes, I didn't feel joy or revenge. I just felt the first, fragile tremor of the ground shifting back beneath my feet. Damien hadn't said a single word about the case, but his message was clear. The game had changed. And she was no longer the one making the rules. That was the most terrifying and satisfying moment of my life. What do you think Damien has planned? What would be your next move if you were him? In the world of legal battles, there is defense, and then there is offense. Damien, it turns out, doesn't believe in defense. His philosophy is to attack so relentlessly that your opponent has no time to even consider their own strategy. The day after our court appearance, Damien filed a motion. It wasn't a counteroffer. It was a declaration of total war. He demanded a full, independent forensic audit of Ariana's finances, including her boutique design business, which she had started 2 years prior. Her lawyer, Will, objected furiously. He postured about privacy, about professional harassment, about the irrelevance of her small business to the divorce proceedings. But Damien's argument was simple and brutal. He stated that since Ariana was claiming lifelong support based on a lifestyle funded by the marital assets, we had a right to know exactly what those assets had been funding. The judge, his interest clearly piqued by the presence of a lawyer like Damien in such a seemingly straightforward case, agreed. The motion was granted. Ariana fought it every step of the way, which was the first red flag. The second was the state of her books. They were a mess. But beneath the chaos, the forensic accountant Damien hired began to find a pattern. Large, regular payments. Sums of money too significant to be simple expenses. They weren't going to fabric suppliers or antique dealers. They were being funneled into a single account belonging to a construction firm. A firm owned by a man whose name I vaguely recognized from a party a couple of years back. Damien and I were in his office, looking at the spreadsheet of transactions when he put it all together. He pulled up the construction company's website. It was full of slick photos of completed projects, custom kitchens, built-in libraries, elegant dining sets. The designs looked familiar, sickeningly familiar. Damien clicked through the gallery, then looked at me.
She wasn't just spending money, Ethan. She was investing in him, using your own creativity as her source material. We have her.
My blood ran cold. He was right. On the screen were watered-down, bastardized versions of my own work. A bookshelf that was a clumsy copy of one I'd made for a client last year. A dining table that mimicked the unique joinery I had sketched out in one of my notebooks, a notebook I kept on my bedside table. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just a simple affair. This was a 2-year-long conspiracy. She had been systematically siphoning our money to fund her lover's business. But the ultimate betrayal, the part that twisted the knife, was that she had been stealing my art. My designs, born from my passion and my family's legacy, were being used by them to defraud customers. They were selling cheap, poorly made imitations of my work, built by his company and marketed through her design business. She hadn't just taken my love and my money, she had taken my soul, monetized it, and sold it to the lowest bidder. The demand for my workshop suddenly made perfect horrific sense. It wasn't just to punish me, it was to erase the source, to eliminate the original so only their cheap copies remained. But this discovery was precisely what Damien needed to turn her divorce case into her conviction. I thought I knew what betrayal felt like, but this is a whole new level. How do you even begin to process something like this? Share your thoughts below. The final hearing wasn't a trial, it was an execution. Damien laid out the evidence with the surgical precision of a master. The bank statements showing the systematic transfer of funds, the side-by-side comparisons of my original design sketches, and the fraudulent furniture her lover's company had produced. He even had affidavits from two of their clients who were suing them for fraud after discovering their expensive designer pieces were made of cheap particle board. Ariana sat there, a hollowed-out version of the confident woman who had tried to destroy me. Her lawyer could do nothing but raise feeble, pointless objections. The judge was appalled. He didn't just deny all of Ariana's claims, he savaged them. He called her actions a calculated and malicious campaign of deceit and theft. She left that courtroom with nothing but her personal belongings, a mountain of legal debt, and a referral for criminal investigation by the district attorney's office for fraud. Her lover, I later learned, had already abandoned her, desperately trying to salvage his collapsing business and save himself. Her reputation was obliterated. In her attempt to take everything from me, she had lost everything herself. A few weeks passed. The noise quieted down. One Saturday, Damien picked me up. He didn't say where we were going. We just drove, leaving the city and the suburbs behind, heading out into the rolling hills of the countryside. We eventually turned down a long, overgrown lane and pulled up to a place I hadn't seen in 5 years, the old family estate, Maple Creek. It was just as I remembered it, only more tired. The paint was peeling, the porch was sagging, and weeds choked the gardens. This place was the ghost that haunted our family, the source of the fight that had torn my brother and me apart. We got out of the car and just stood there for a moment, the silence thick with unspoken history. He looked at the old, dilapidated house, but he saw what I had always seen, the good bones beneath the decay. He turned to me, and for the first time in years I saw my brother, not the shark.
She underestimated you, Ethan. She saw a hobbyist. I see an artist. This place, Maple Creek. It's been waiting for you. For us. What do you say, little brother? Let's build something that lasts.
He laid out his plan. He would handle the finances, the business side. He would fund the entire restoration. I would do what I do best. I would bring it back to life. We would turn the old house into a gallery for my work and the outbuildings into a state-of-the-art workshop. We wouldn't just be restoring a house. We'd be building a business, a legacy. Our legacy. I looked from the broken home to my brother's outstretched hand, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me for the first time in a long time. The anger and betrayal had been a fire, but it had burned itself out, and now, in the ashes, something new was ready to grow. Yeah, I said, a real smile finally reaching my eyes. Let's do that. Last week, we started the work. We began with the porch, just the two of us, pulling up the rotten planks and laying down a new foundation. It's hard work, but it's good work. With every swing of the hammer, it feels like we're not just rebuilding a house, but rebuilding our own broken foundation, piece by piece. Thank you all for following my journey. Your support and comments meant the world to me when I felt completely alone. It's been a hard road, but I'm finally building a new future, one filled with sawdust, hope, and the quiet comfort of family.